Looking for real stories that lift you up and light a fire inside? Welcome to Inspire and Impact, the podcast where purpose meets perseverance. This is where transformation begins and your story continues.
Welcome to the Inspire and Impact podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Rosenstein. The show features real conversations with thought leaders, healers, entrepreneurs, and creatives who share their journeys of growth and making a meaningful impact. Today, I have the honor of interviewing Helena Namid. Helena, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so pleased to be here today.
Great. So, Helena, can you introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yep. So I am from Sweden, and I'm a mother of three that has different ADHD, autism, and language disorder. And they are grown up now, and I decided to take all that knowledge to do something with it and to spread knowledge into a book that I wrote. Because I learned during all these years, it's now 25 years, that if you don't have the knowledge, you can't get the understanding. And if you don't get the understanding, you can't do the right things. So that's a little bit short of my background.
Wonderful. What originally inspired you to pursue a psychology and psychotherapy and then specialize in neuropsychology?
I always loved the body and what's happening inside the body. So I started, when my children were little, I started to educate myself to be a physiotherapist, but the one who handle the people who has a lot of anxiety and stress, because there's so much going on in the body that you don't really understand, and that you can get helped by movements or different meditation styles, and just learning how your mind and body is cooperating. So that's it. And I started studying in 2004. And then my girls were little, and I didn't know that they had all these kind of problems that they had.
You shared like a defining moment from your 45-year-old career that shaped your passion for working with like brain health and trauma recovery.
Can you just formulate the question again in more simple English?
That's right. Was there any defining moment in your career that like really shaped how like you think and do things like with brain health?
The thing is, I myself has ADHD, and I learned about that maybe in 2015, and there were so many puzzle pieces that came together to make me understand myself, and I refused from the beginning to medicate myself. So the way I interpreted it was to go through my body and accept and work through my body with all the symptoms that I had. And together with all the structure that we had to have in the home for the children, it was more like step by step. And I got more understanding how important it is to get the understanding of the body and the mind. And later on, I went and studied the brain in Norway for a whole year to just understand what happens in the brain when you have anxiety, and how you can reduce your anxiety with special movements that the brain is operating as calming. So it's been the same road actually from 2004, but I hadn't been aware that I was doing a path, and slowly all the pieces came together.
On your website, you use the words magic of old libraries. How does your love for stories and books influence your therapeutic approach?
I have always loved books, and I have had too many books. in my home. And that has been a problem when we moved, because the boxes were too heavy. And then I have had a dream of writing a book for very, very long. I mean, more than 20 years. And my first dream was to write a children's book because my youngest girl, she has ADHD, and so many things happened around her that I wanted to make a children's book, to explore the different parts that takes place in her body. And then I have myself dyslexia. So it's been something I talk to myself and say, I will never be able to write a book. That's not in my capacity because I have dyslexia. I suddenly said, I can't keep putting obstacles in my way. I have to do what I want to do. And so it was actually easier for me to start writing a book about developmental language disorder because it was so close to me. And somehow I find myself writing it in English. And I thought it was easier to write it in English than doing it in Swedish. And I can't explain why, but it was easier for me. Maybe it was easier for me to just be more in compartments and not. I think if I had written it in Swedish, I would never have ended it.
Perfect. Does your dyslexia kind of like prevent you from, or like hinder you from reading books and writing? Like, how does the dyslexia like impact all that?
Yeah. So my dyslexia is the kind of dyslexia that when I'm writing a sentence, I don't see that I skip words. And so when I read it, I can't see that I missed because it's got stuck in my brain anyway. And so when I went to university, we had something that called I could apply on medical terms. That means that I got all the books in recording and I had a writer. So one of my colleagues or student colleagues, she got paid by the university to write the notes from all the classes. So I got them by the computer afterwards. So I never had to focus on writing and listening. And that is still a problem for me to like watch TV and then somebody comes into the room and starts talking to me. Then I can't hear what they're saying. So I always have to pause the TV and then I can listen to what the person is saying. So it's how it's interacting with me. But now I have learned how to handle it. And today it's amazing with all the computer tools that you can use when you are writing. And when I wrote the book, I used a writing tool where they could find all the errors in spelling and in grammar and everything. So on that way, I could secure that the sentences were correct. And then, of course, people had to read it as well.
Great. So, Masik, what were some of your favorite like books, like or stories that you loved like growing up?
Of course, we have Astrid Lindgren. Do you know Longstocking? Pippi Longstocking? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and so she's my favorite author, and she has every different kind of stories, and behind all her stories are always a strong woman, because she was very political, Astrid, when she wrote her books at that time. So I love all her books, and I love reading them for my children and etc. as well. And I will read them to my grandchildren one day as well.
So, for many years, you worked in like a clinical setting. What motivated you to expand into doing private consultations and coaching?
Yeah, so I've been working so many years, and I had all this experience. And then I had all this experience handling my children's problems, to organize their day-to-day living, to organize the school, to organize the system, to apply for extra funding, because it costs a lot to have children that need to wash the clothes all the day. And all of this I put into practice to coach, and I think that I use what did I want when I had a child, when my children were small. What did I need? And I really needed somebody who understood me and how to comprehend all the different type of ADHD, autism, and everything, and how to handle it, because it's very stressful as a parent to handle it. So if I had, when they were small, if I had somebody I could have contacted or get support from, I would be, maybe I would do something different today. So my original thought is, if I can give somebody what I needed, then I know I can reach somebody who has the problems that they think it's so overwhelming, so they don't know where to start.
Wow, really amazing. I mean, for the people, the audience who are not that familiar with neuropsychology, can you maybe explain to them, like, what exactly does that mean?
So we have different kinds of explanation, of course. My children has a developmental language disorder, and that means, for example, that they can be diagnosed with an impressive problem. That means that they can't take in information. Okay, so you have to divide information for them to comprehend, or you have to secure that they understood what you were saying. And then you have something called expressive, and that means that they can't express the language. And when they can't express the language, it feeds a lot of frustration and outbursts. And then you have to secure them and help them express what they want to say. And if you have the combination of the two, as my middle daughter has, she has the combination of impressive and expressing. And on top of that, she has her ADHD. That's kind of a hyper and really gets in her head, too much. And then learn her to divide the different things for her to understand what tools to use. And when she was in her teenager, of course, this made her very anxious, and she became, how do you say, when you cut yourself, because she had so much pains inside of her, so she couldn't deal with it. So then what we had really to work with her to help her express what was going on inside of her. Where were the ache in the body? How can you interpret the ache? Is it a hard ache? Is it a small ache? Do you want to scream? Do you want to laugh? Do you want to punch? So I think it just came to me really working with her, Nobody learned me these things. I just said, I have to help her understand what's going on inside of her, in her body, in her mind, and everything. And today she's turning 23, and she's living in her own apartment, and she has a full-time job and a car, and she's out there training and dating and whatever they do, She still needs my help, but not in the way she would have had if she hadn't got so far in her own self-development and understanding what is happening inside of her.
Do you have like how many people like have like language disorders? Is that like something that's very common, or?
It is more common than you think, because in every classroom of students, it is about 3%. So
3%?
there's at least 1 to 2. But common thing today is that they get the wrong diagnosis, because sometimes when you go to the doctor, they can interpret as ADHD, but doesn't need to be ADHD. The problem is, or the thing is, that when you have DLD, and if you have autism and if you have ADHD, they have similar things that's disturbing in the brain for them. And it can be very hard to sort out what is the different parts. And sometimes you just have to accept that they integrate into each other, and that you have to use the tools just to get to the one problem, and not put it like this is autism or this is ADHD or this is DLD. You just have to focus on what is it that is the problem and then deal with it. Like, for example, if you have ADHD, you have your working memory is very poor. That means that when you're learning things, if you are normal, or if we are normal, I don't know, you take knowledge and it goes to the working memory, and then it goes back to the long-term memory. Okay, that is the normal path. But for a DLD and autism and ADHD, the working memory, it has variation to be very short, or has a small capacity to use the information to be able to store it in the long term. That's why you have to work all the time with the repetition. You have to repeat and repeat and repeat. So it goes from the working memory back to the long-term memory.
It's really fascinating. I mean, how does like emotions and brain function and behavior, they connect with neuropsychological perspectives?
If you were talking about autism, they have a lot of feelings, but they can't express their feelings. So they can't read your facial expressions and can interpret you. It's a problem. And you cannot interpret an autistic person because they are normally quite blank. You can't read what is going on. But that doesn't say that they don't have emotions, because there's a lot of emotions inside of the body, And if they are small, or if they are children, it's normally with what we call tantrums, because it's so much that is built inside, but they're still emotions and you can find them. ADHD people, they are more verbal, some of them, so that there are no filters. So everything comes out instead, for maybe saving it and thinking. So instead of punish, it comes out at once. And that can be quite harsh if you're not used to handle it, or if you don't understand that maybe the first words aren't what they meant really, there's something behind it. But if you're talking with a person who has language difficulties, then it's a combination of everything. It can be filled with insight, but you don't know how to express it, or you can't take in information that maybe you would interpret that they are not empathic because they don't understand your side of the story. So you have to divide stories and put emotions to them for making them understand, and to acknowledge what is happening and just being there with them. And as a parent, it is very often that the child is triggering you. So you maybe get very angry or sad or frustrated. And you have to understand that you have to become very low empathic to close up on your feelings, to be able to handle your child's feelings. But then when you're finished and the child is not around you, you as a parent have to express your feelings in some kind of way, Otherwise they get stuck, and then you get all the pains in the bodies, and then you get a sore back or headaches, or yeah.
So you work with all different types of clients, like people that have brain injuries, PTSD, people have a lot of pain. and other types of, like, what do you think is like a common theme do you see across all these different types of people?
I'm very holistic in my thinking,
Right.
So if there is a pain in the body, for example, and that's quite normal if you are in a stress situation and if you've been living with stress for a very, very long time, you put them in the body. All the feelings are in the body, and you develop different kind of pains. And those pains you have to be brave to face. And sometimes you just need somebody who's coaching you through these kind of feelings, because it can be layers and they are not dangerous. But when you are feeling a feeling, it can feel that you are in danger. And in that way, it can make very hard for just reading a book, do this and do that. Then you need somebody who is coaching you with all these things. And then if you have a different kind of brain damage, the brain is plastic. Not all injuries can be healed, because a neuron, when it's broken, it grows around. So it makes different kinds of circuits. So you have to work with the new circuit and train it to do what it is that you want to do. So there are so many ways you can help a person who has different combinations in the body.
So how do you adopt like psychotherapy when working with people that have like either brain fatigue or neurological conditions? Because it seems it's a lot more complicated, right? If you're saying it simply.
Yeah, it is very different. And when I was studying to a physiotherapist, I mean, we had a lot of psychological lessons. I mean, we have a medical hospital here in Stockholm that is beside the university. So it was a very medical university, We had to do science, and everything has to be proven, and so on and so on. But it all connects, and I think with life experience, I have experienced so many different traumas and situations, and just being there as a calm person can sometimes help. But I think the most thing I do when I coach is I help them organize their thoughts, because the thoughts are all over the place, and it's hard to do your day-to-day life when you have your thought that's all over the place. So sometimes you just have to sit down and sort them out, and then put them into like 1 to 10. How dangerous are they? Are these thoughts that is not relevant to have? Then throw them away and focus on the other thoughts that disturbs you, and then reorganize, and then use tools. I have so many tools. And we are all different, so you need different tools. One tool doesn't fit all. That is the coaching part, that I can't just say, I have this coaching tool, it's good for you. But maybe it's not good for you. Then we have to try it and then select another tool instead.
What do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions that people have with people who have language disorders?
I think yes, people are afraid when they meet something they don't understand. And you have to be empathic as a person and accept somebody who they are, because they are not their diagnosis. They are a person behind everything. So I think that if we were more tolerant to each other, I think we would work more together and don't have all the conflicts that we do have.
So like, what advice do you give to like parents who have kids, with these type of like issues, like language disorder or some type of brain impairment? Is there any advice you can give that to maybe somebody in the audience that may be dealing with this?
The best thing the best tool I would give is pictures, to make pictures in sequences that help understanding a sequence. So if, for example, if you go to your grandmother's house, you're going to have supper there, okay? Those words can be hard to understand. You have to finish your play, you have to put other clothes on, you have to get to a car, and you have to drive, and so on and so on. So, and if you work with pictures, you can have a picture of grandma, a car, and dinner. Then you can enhance the message. We are going in an hour to our grandmother. We will be going by the car, and then we will have dinner there. And then we will be going home, and you will brush your teeth, and etc. Then it makes more understanding the whole process, you know? So instead of being confused and not knowing what's happening, the child has full understanding of all the steps that is going to happen. And in that way, the child becomes calmer and the parents become happier.
A win-win.
It's a win-win. It's a win-win. It's truly a win-win. Yeah.
So what are some early signs that like parents should look out for to notice if one of the children has DLD or ADHD? Are there any particular signs they should look out for?
Yeah, it's the language, when the language arrives. We have so many science and study that when the child starts to make noises and then small sounds, and then they maybe say a word, and then they say a sentence, and we have different, some children can say words when they're 1 year old, etc., etc. But when the language doesn't come, but the voice is coming, so they're talking their own language, but you can't understand it, then it's a heads up, maybe something is wrong here. About 3 years old, you could say. But if your child is autistic, you've noticed earlier, because they are more enclosed and they don't like to be touched. And if they have ADHD, they are all over the place, and you will have toys all over the place. But if you are a girl with ADHD, it doesn't always become a hyper ADHD, because the hyper thing goes inside the brain of them. So they are very hyper in the brain, but that you can see that they don't sleep. Okay. So then you have to work about to make routines before they go to bed and sleeping, and you have this duvet that's very heavy that helps the body to relax, and so on and so on. So, for example, my oldest child, she didn't speak until she was 7 years old. So this was a problem, because when we went to speech therapists, they didn't know what DLD was. She gave up on my child after 6 months. So she said, I can't do anything for you and your child, So I was very lost with her. And then I had to manage by myself and train her to speak. So I grasped a lot of knowledge. I read so much, and I was around, I was looking at how can we do with this? And then her language started to come, and then it so when she was 9, everything was okay. She could talk, but she just had problem to take instruction. So we had to really start to build pictures in a young age. And then that followed with my girl, and now my son, he's 16, and he was the best success, because we had all the tools when he was born, So I could, before he went to kindergarten, I could say, you have to do like this, you have to use science, you have to use colors, you have to use pictures. And then he went to school, and I said, you have to divide the information, you have to do like this and this and this, so. Yeah. So he's what you call normal.
So how important it is to have like early intervention, to try to work with the children as soon as possible.
So I have experienced it. I mean, if I had all the knowledge I had with my son, my girls would have had more forthcoming, They were more try and error, unfortunately. So an early intervention is so important. But then you get these other problems. Even if you are, as a parent, get all the knowledge, you know what to do, you know how to handle it. Then you have to educate all the teachers and the headmasters and the school systems, and you have to argue for the right of your child. That is the burnout part.
So how do you empower parents and help build their confidence when they're navigating all these issues, with their children?
So what I do when I work with the parent, we divide out what is the problem, etc. That is half of the coaching. The other half is to find the strength of the parents. What is your strength? And what is your weakness? And what do you need to aid your weakness? And most of all, you have to do self-care, because you don't have the time to self-care. And then you get burned out, So we talk a lot of where in the day-to-day life can we find 5 minutes of self-care? Is it just taking that kind of coffee in that space, in that corner of the house? Is that what you can manage today? You do that every day, and then we can build from that. Or I had my 5 minutes alone with my coffee, and then you can build on that so that you don't lose yourself. Because it's so common as a parent with a child with problems that you lose yourself, who you are and what you should do to heal yourself and to be strong, because you have to be strong to manage everything that goes around you.
Now, I want to kind of shift the focus about talking about some of these modalities that you use. What I read on your website, like you're certified in EMDR, IFS, and brain spotting, and maybe some few others. Can you maybe explain to people, the audience, what exactly is EMDR or IFS and brain spotting, and how they help the people with like these brain issues?
Well, there's so many different ways to work with the brain,
Yeah.
And you have the good thing now is that science are going so fast forward, and more. I just read a study this morning, actually, how they used the brain waves and IA intelligence to diagnose ADHD. And they got, out of 100 children, they got 8 to 9 that was confirmed, that they had. So there's so many different things going on in the brain. And if you can read what is going on in the brain, I think that we have a lot of knowledge now when we can integrate it with technology in a different way. But I mean, all kind of body movements in different ways. I mean, you have all these, I think they talk a lot of tapping. You heard about it when you're
Yes.
tapping. Yeah. And that is the same thing, actually. You are tapping on specific parts of your body to acknowledge what you want to do or say or get rid of, And somebody was clever enough to know where the parts on the body are, where it's stuck. Because it's feelings that's got stuck in the body, But if you want to know the experts, then you have to turn to the experts about the different kind of techniques, I'm not a doctor. I'm just a mother.
So how do you know like what like modality to use, like tapping or EMDR when you work with a client?
I use my intuition, and it's often correct, And that is an interpretation of the one I'm talking to. Because normally when we talk to somebody, you don't realize that you are using actually your auditive, and you're using your eyesight, and you're using your emotion. And all those three communication channels makes information that tells you something, and you have to be open to listen to that. So I can't just listen with my ears. Then I maybe I get 30% of the information. I have to listen with all my senses. And while it's been successful until now.
Can you maybe share some of the breakthroughs you've had with working with some of your clients?
So I worked with a client who had another kind of psychiatric problem. I don't know the English word. It's mano-depressive. It's you're happy and you're sad at the same, it goes up and down. And her child had a very, very hard autism. So in that case, I had to first sort out all the feelings inside the mothers, what's happening inside of her. And then when we had come what's happening inside of her, we could start what is happening outside of her with the child. How is she responding with tantrums, So it's quite simple. It's just sorting out what is the triggers and to use them. And then if I'm not afraid to give programs from, it can be everything from yoga, and it could be qigong, and it could be a mindfulness exercise, or just a simple meditation. And meditation isn't always sitting down and, yogi, but it can be just taking that sip of a coffee I was talking about before. It's a kind of meditation because you're doing it with your favorite coffee in your favorite spot in the house and nobody's around you. And that is meditation for the brain as well. So the secret is actually to make the person I'm talking to relax in the brain, to be able to hear the information that is going on inside of the person's brain. Because if it's too much, you can't hear anything.
So you've helped many adults recover from stress-related disorders. Like, what are the first steps to healing, chronic stress?
Breathing.
Really?
Yes, it's breathing. You have to relearn how to breathe. So breathing is so important for the body. It's it's the way in nourishment. So first I always work with the breathing, and then I work with the feet. And why do I work with the feet? Yeah, because the feet are carrying us on the world, So you have to feel your feet when you are walking. If you do not feel your feet, you are not grounded. And if you're not grounded, then you allow the head to get the spinning part.
Wow. So how does trauma show up differently in the body than in the mind?
The thing is, it's all connected because the trauma can put, it is the feeling when it comes into the body and and you can feel yourself, if you would be honest to yourself, when you are stressed. Normally you have a part in the body that starts to ache. You get, I'm sore in my back, or my leg are itching, or my shoulder starts, I have this old injury, you have all these excuses. But you normally have a part in the body that tells you, mayday, 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 it don't get worse, Then you have to start and you have to go inside and listen to that part of the body and see, are you mature enough to release it? Or is it a defense system that you have applied that you need? So you cannot go in and just, now we will take away. If it's a defense system that you need today, but you can ease up on the defense system, sorting out you're not going to die, because the brain goes to, are you going to live or are you going to die? So the brain is an old mechanism, quite simple as well. Now we are storing so much in our bodies, making our bodies to ache. And that is the things you have to look into and to release, but softly. And that's the best thing to do. That is by breathing, using your prana, breathe.
So what role does mindfulness play in the healing?
Mm-hmm. So you have sometimes, you have to focus sometimes, and you have to use it with appreciation. If you are a hectic day-to-day life, you probably have stopped eating slowly, for example. So you just, if I get nourishment and then I run, then you have to restart and really, take in what you are eating and forcing your body to slow down, and you're forcing yourself to feel the taste or the consistency of the food or the color. And that is a basic mindfulness practice, just to acknowledge what are you doing. And then it can be so simple just to take when you're brushing your teeth, acknowledge what you're doing. Acknowledge the taste of the toothpaste. How does it feel? How did it feel before you brushed your teeth, and how do you feel afterwards? So it's those, you need the simple tools that you can use in the day-to-day life. Otherwise, I can't come and say, I need you to do this, and you have to stand on one leg, and then you have to breathe 3 times, and then you have to, you can't. You have to take the tools and integrate them in the day-to-day life.
So what new developments or breakthroughs in neuropsychology are you most excited about these days?
I think that we can use IA more now in different parts. I mean, it has been an explosion on applications on your phone. How to sort things out, how to get reminders, how to register how you feel. I mean, it's amazing what it does and what it helps.
Yeah, everybody's talking about AI in every aspect of the lives. It seems like it's everywhere now. In almost every discussion, AI comes up as
But
a topic.
for me, it's exceptional, because as a dyslexic person, I know what I want to say and I know what I want to write. So I can go into my OpenIA and I can write roughly what I want, so it's still me. And then I say, I want you to rewrite this into the tone I intended, and then I can give me 3 different examples. And then here it is, it's still my words and it's in correct spelling. I just got the help, So for me, with my issues, it's perfect. But I'm open for finding tools, that works. But I have always been open to finding tools that works.
So you supervise other therapists and healthcare professionals. What do you think is essential for somebody who's new, like a new psychologist entering the field today?
You have to be humble that you don't know everything. But you have to be curious what is happening with the one you're talking to. You can't stop being curious. As soon as you stop getting curious, then you shouldn't work with it anymore. Yeah.
What is one powerful lesson you've learned from work with our clients over these years?
Oh, there's so much hidden power inside of every person. And they just need help to find the inner power inside of themselves, to realize that they have everything, all the tools, all the knowledge, all the understanding, because there's so much power inside of each one person. But we are very, very eager to seek knowledge outside of ourselves. So I see myself just giving a push and maybe open doors. I would more express it like I'm opening doors for people, and they can have a look, is this for me or for not, and then to find that I have this, I feel good about this, I know this, So I don't have my intentions to have a coaching for going on forever and ever and ever. My coachings are very, it's direct, and it's a few sessions, and then they have to stand on their own, and then we get to recap after 3 months or 6 months, and I'm always there. If they gone on the wrong track, they can always come back to me and say, hey, I needed one more session. But my goal isn't to have a client that goes on forever and ever and ever. Doesn't help them, They have to find the power quite to see the result, And then I know that they are happy and I am happy,
So what impact will you like your own books that you're writing yourself to have on other people?
I really wanted to be, I I ordered my author copies in January and they came in Friday. So it is the perfect timing for today. So it's here.
Wow.
I'm so happy about this. I'm so proud, And so it is really a guide, It's a guide to support language development. And I combine theory because knowledge for me has always been important. For me, I really have to understand some things to move forward. So I combined it with theory and with examples and the different tools. I've integrated this as well, because I think that you really need to understand to move forward, And the only way to understand is to have the knowledge, because it was so important for me to have the knowledge. And I haven't seen so many books written about it, You can find it, but I haven't seen so many books. So I know it's extremely niched. But maybe someday, somebody will notice it. It's on Amazon. And for the moment, it's in English. And hopefully I will redo it into Swedish one day,
If you could leave parents and caregivers with one message of hope today, what would that be?
It will always get better. It isn't as hard as they think it is. They are just stuck in a thinking pattern.
That's great. So if people have any questions for our interview today, or they're interested in working with you, what are the best ways to reach out to you?
The best way is to mail me from the web page I have. And from that, I can always send my Calendly for booking appointments.
So there's like a form to fill out on your website?
Today, it's only my mail, so I will see the mail. So I'm confident. I check it all the time. So, yeah.
Okay, great. Before we wrap up this podcast, is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience?
Just to keep calm, to breathe, and knowledge. The key is knowledge. That is what I want to say. The key is knowledge.
Well, Helena, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today and sharing all your wisdom and tremendous amount of experience of over 40 years of learning about psychology, neuropsychology, and sharing that with our audience. It's really amazing the amount of knowledge that you have. So thank you so much for sharing that with everybody. And congratulations again on your book. It's very exciting. I'm sure it's going to help a lot of people. So I really appreciate you coming on and sharing everything. It was a wonderful speaking with you and learning from you. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you.